Hey everybody, good to be here today. My name is Brent Moores. I'm sitting in for Mr. Michael Fairborn, who's out today. And so I get the pleasure of talking to you about ThinkScript studies on Thinkorswim. Glad you're here. I see some familiar names in the chat. That's wonderful. I also am joined by Cameron May. He's a longtime friend, colleague, and encourage you to check out his sessions, including a Getting Started with Options session. Teaches that on Tuesdays at noon Eastern Time. So make sure you check that out. And there we go. You can follow either of us, Cam or myself, on X at Brent Moore CS, at Cameron May CS. So glad you're here, folks. Let's hit the disclosures here real quick, and then we'll get to it. Just remember, the information today is for general informational purposes only, and should not be considered an individual recommendation or personalized investment advice. Schwab does not recommend the use of technical analysis as the sole means of investment research. Paper money application is provided for educational purposes only. And let's see, all investing involves risk, including risk of loss. Past performance of any security or strategy does not guarantee future results or success. Okay, there we go. Let's head on over to the Thinkorswim platform. You know, there's a lot of different ways to, when we talk about ThinkScripting, everybody, there's different scripts that you may see. You may see some that are on charts, okay? You may see some that are perhaps in watch lists, a column script of some sort. There's also scripts that you can do. You can share scripts for scans, for example. And that's where I'm going to focus today. I'm going to focus on scans and scripts on scans. And what I want to talk to you about is, number one, creating scans, customizing scans. And when we customize scans, you can do so through just programming, typing in the ThinkScript, which we're not going to do today. But there's an alternative way to do it. And there's an aid to help you create these scripts. I'm going to show you there. The Condition Wizard is what it's called. A lot of you may be familiar with that. So we're going to go and create one. And then I want to talk about layering on these scans so you can double them up, so to speak, and find the stocks that are of interest to you. That's the goal here. And I'm trying to teach you the principles today so you can kind of do your own thing. Of course, it's not a recommendation in that regard. Okay, so let's just talk here. Let me get rid of this left-hand column. I'm on the scan page, scan tab. I'm on the Stock Hacker. And I'm just gonna, I think this is all reset. And then on these scans, you can add your filters. Those of you who are familiar with this, you know how to do that. But if I choose to add a filter, and I can just say, let's say a stock filter, that's easy enough. I can create a scan here on this. So let's just start with this. I'm going to start. This is going to be the first little bit. Isn't going to do anything to do with ThinkScripting. If I'm doing a scan, I can click on scan, add a filter, and I could do something like, hey, I want the closing price of the stock to be something. So I click on close, stock, close, and I could say, oh, I want that stock to be at least, $10 per share. Okay, so that's how you can add a filter, and you can add other filters on here as well. So now, we can customize these, though, with different types of filters. You can also add in filters at the top of the page where it says Scan In up here. For example, if I want to find Scan In All Stocks and go to Public, I can go to Public S&P 500. So instead of adding a particular filter on here to try and find a particular subset of stocks, I can go up to Scan In and add those right here, okay? Now, I just did S&P 500. That's kind of a common one that you may consider to use. Now, let's say I want to have a goal of doing a scan here of of creating a list of liquid stocks. Okay, that's the goal here that we're going to do, liquid stocks. The cool thing about this list is once we create that list and once we save that list, we can then not just use it as a watch list because they'll automatically save as a watch list, but we can use that as embedded in another scan. Okay, I'll show you, I'll demonstrate. If that didn't make sense, I'll demonstrate to you that in just a little bit. But what do I want to see in, say, a liquid stocks watch list? Well, minimum stock price maybe is something. S&P 500, you know, that's the 500, roughly at least the 500 biggest stocks out there. So those are going to be things. Now, the reality is there's some overlap because S&P 500 stocks are almost all going to be above $10 a share anyway, but you can always increase that to something else. Maybe we do $20 a share, whatever. But there's other filters you can use. For example, one common one under public filters. Now, if I save the scan and create a watch list, they'll list in my personal filters. But in this case, I'm going to go to public filters here, okay? So I'm going to go to public, and another one for liquid options is penny increment options. This is a very popular one. So now my scan is entailing S&P 500 stocks that have penny increment options. And when we say penny increment options, what we mean is they're priced in pennies, okay? It doesn't necessarily mean the bid-ask spread is 1 penny apart, but it does mean when we're looking at them, the price may change penny to penny, and you're not just restricted, because some stocks some options you may look at it and the option price will be like 310 or 320, and there's never the possibility of it being 318 or anything like that. So when we add penny increment options, those are going to be more liquid type options. Now, we're still scanning for stocks here, but these are going to be more in case you are an options trader, this list is going to help to give us more liquid options there, okay? Yep, Chris says pennies rather than nickels. You got it. Okay. Now, let's do one more thing. This is actually going to give us a decent list here, but I'm going to add one more filter. Now, when you add these filters, I added a filter, a stock filter. Okay, that's kind of a basic filter. There's other type of filters called study filters. These, if you try and do these, what I'm about to do on paper money, it's going to give you an error message. It's going to say you can't do this in paper money. You have to do it in your live platform. So this is demonstrating that these studies are going to be restricted to the live platform. But I'm going to click on study. And when you click on that, notice it says study over here, not stock. Stock, I have a particular list of things. Studies, this is where I can customize things. And so if I go down here, there's different studies available. You know, you can see those right here. I can see those right here. But what I can do is I can go down to go down to custom if I want to. Now, I'm not going to actually, we're going to do this in just a little bit, but let me just point out something to you. When we go to custom, if I had that custom study, it brings up another window. And if I want to just type in script or something like that, ThinkScript, I can do that. Or maybe you're using AI or something and coming up with script code and you're plugging it in here. This is where you can plug it in. What we're going to do when we get to these custom studies is we're going to go to the condition wizard, okay? But not yet, okay? Because what I'm going to do here is I'm going to not actually customize my own. What I'm going to do this is I'm going to go up here and I'm going to just add a custom study that's already in there, a volume study for average volume, okay? And what I'm going to say is the average volume, the 50-day simple moving average, you just got to read it. It's kind of pretty much plain English here. Average volume, the 50-day simple moving average of the volume is greater than, let's see, what is it? I got to count my number of zeros there. Is that 1 million? That's 10 million. I'm good with that. We'll leave it at 10 million, okay? Now, notice you may, when you look at stock, you may see one that says volume there, if you were to look at that. But keep in mind, the one that just says volume is just looking at today's volume. And if you're looking at it earlier in the day, maybe there's not that much volume to it. This average volume is looking at the average daily volume for the last 50 days. So I actually kind of prefer using this in the scans there to just the plain old volume figure there. But I'll leave that at 10 million. Now, of course, you can tweak these. It doesn't have to be 10 million. It can be 5 million maybe. That would still give you some liquidity there in the market. But here's what I'm going to do. But I'm going to save this. Now, Jim said in the chat, he said, if I already have some scan in and I want to start a new one from scratch, you can always go up here to the little 3-line menu up here and click on reset right there. That'll zero it out to kind of the 3 basic scans there, three basic filters on there. And if you don't like those, you can always just kind of X them out on the right side of the page. Okay. So there we go. So this is where we're at. So this is our bullish scan. Now, this isn't going to do me much. I don't want to have to recreate this each time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this. And the beauty of saving it is it doesn't just save it as a scan. It saves it as a watch list as well. So I'm going to go to the middle of these menus. It gets a little confusing with these 3-line menus there, but I'm going to click on that. I'm going to go to the middle one, and I'm going to save that scan query. And this scan query isn't for bullish or bearish. This is just for liquid stocks. So potentially we can embed this in other scans that are bullish scans or bearish scans or neutral scans or whatever we want. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to type in liquid stocks. Now, I already have one I've titled liquid options. So I'm going to do this liquid stocks. Okay. So I'm going to click on save. Now, here's my scan. Okay. Load scan query. Now I'm in personal, and I'm going to go to liquid stocks, and then I'm going to scan that, and I can find, oh, so we've got 146 results there on that. Okay. So there we go. This scan S&P 500, penny increment options, and so on. Now, if I want to tighten this up a little bit, I could add more volume on there if I wanted to. Hold on one sec. I meant to do 10 million. I did 1 million. I wish they would put little commas in there to help me out on that. I'm actually going to redo this one. Okay. So I'm going to go here and that's 1 million. I want 10 million. So I'm going to add another 0 in there. Let me click on scan. Now we've got 49 results. That's more like it. So let's resave that. I'm going to go to the top. No, I'm not going to go to the top menu. Remember, the top menu is where that reset scan was. I'm going to go to that middle menu, and I'm going to save this scan query. And I'm going to save it. It automatically populates liquid stocks in there, and it's going to ask me if I want to overwrite it. I'm going to click on save. Yes, I do want to overwrite, and click on OK. Okay, now here's my scan. So we've started with, a universe of over 10,000 stocks probably. We narrowed it down to 500, and between these other things, now we're down to 49 of these guys. Okay, now, look, if I just want to pull this watch list up in the future, come over here, I'm on watch list, I can go to my personal watch list, and look, there it is, liquid stocks. That's what this little purple thing does. That means it started as a scan right there, liquid stocks. This will update each day, so presumably there may not be any difference one day to the next day, but with these results. But here's the thing. So that's kind of cool. With your scans, you can do that. Let's go and let's now look for more bullish stocks. Okay. Let's look for more bullish stocks in a scan, and we're going to utilize this scan that we just created as a part of the other scan. Furthermore, what we're going to do is we're going to actually add a custom parameter where we create with that condition wizard in this next scan here to try and take you to the next level on this. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I could just start building from here, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to reset this guy. Let's reset. Okay, when we reset, this is where we start out here. Okay, and if I don't want these, I'm having to scroll over a little bit. I have the font a little bit bigger than I normally would use it, but I like you guys to be able to see it. Okay, so I've expanded the font setting, but the consequence of expanding that font setting is that I have to scroll a little bit there. Okay, so I'm going to scroll over. If I want to get rid of any of these, I can just click on X and it goes away. Okay, X. We'll start from scratch here on this. Okay, and notice the filters are all clear here as well. So in this case, what I wanted to do is I want to look for bullish stocks, but I want liquid stocks. Maybe I'm doing an option trade. Maybe I just want a liquid stock, whatever. And the reason I'm kind of emphasizing options here, I'm not encouraging anybody to trade options, or talking specifically about options trading, but for options traders, very often there's more of an importance of finding more liquid stocks out there because options are less liquid than stocks. So there's really a premium on trying to find liquidity in those stocks here. So as I create different scans, I don't want to have to go through each time and go, well, I'm going to put in my stock price. I'm going to put in penny increment options. I'm going to put in S&P 100 or S&P 500 or whatever. So I'm going to click on this. And I'm just going to go to my personal list. I'm going to go to the one we just created. And now we've already done all the legwork on it. Now, if I were just to run this scan right now, I'm not going to, we'd come up with 49 stocks probably. That's where the scan was. That's what our initial scan was. But now we're going to turn this into a bullish scan. Okay. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be looking for bullish stocks. This is just the S&P 500 right now. But here's what the parameters I'm using for a bullish stock today. And of course, you can modify whatever. But on this chart, I have a 20-day moving average. Okay, that's the red one, the red line right there. Okay, I have a 50-day moving average. By the way, if you're ever watching a webcast and Cam is teaching or someone else is teaching, and you're going, oh, what are those moving averages? A lot of times you can just look at the top of the page. If you can see it well enough, you can kind of spy it right there and see what it is, what it says up there. Anyway, I have a 20-day and a 50-day moving average. Okay, so when we're looking for bullish stocks, a lot of technicians like to use moving averages. Okay, and what they do is they say, hey, for a bullish stock, if the stock is above the moving averages, both a 20 and a 50-day moving average, that's probably a good sign for bullishness. Not a guarantee, right? The moving averages could be going down and the stock could have just jumped up in one day above them. But typically, that's considered more bullish if we're above those, particularly if those are upsloping. Okay. Now, in addition to that as the general trend, sometimes what we'll do is we'll look for momentum. Okay. So this is the moving averages are my trend indicator here. That's one step of the trade here. Now, we may also look in support and resistance and things like that, but I'm not going to deal with support and resistance today right now. But we can also look at momentum. And down here, I have another indicator. And this indicator, is generally referred to as a momentum indicator. Specifically, this is a MACD histogram. I like using MACD histograms often because to me, they're pretty easy to interpret, pretty easy to visualize and see. When the stock has more upward momentum, okay, these bars are getting higher. See that? As the stock has upward momentum, those bars are getting higher, okay? Even when or if it's in the negative zone, so here's the 0 line. If it's in the negative zone and the bars are getting less low, so to speak, we'd call that upward momentum too, okay? Now, if the bars are going lower, such as here, I'll put a square around it, that would be lessening momentum, lower momentum. Or if the bars are, say, below 0 and getting even lower, we would also consider that lessening momentum as well. Okay? So that's how I'm interpreting this, the MACD histogram. This is a more simplified indicator. Now, Wiley said he prefers the MACD with 2 lines on it. Okay? I am not dismissing any other way you want to do it. That's fine, but I'm going to use this as a sample because I think it's going to be illustrative here. There are different types of momentum indicators. Have you heard of an RSI? An RSI is an indicator used for momentum as well very often. Okay? And so there we go. But I just want you to, before we go into actually creating our scan, I wanted to be clear on the technical analysis of this before we go into this. So I'm going to be looking for an uptrending stock, and the way I'm going to define uptrend, and there's a lot of different ways to do it, folks. There really are. The way I'm going to look for the upward trending stock is I'm going to look for a stock that's above its 20-day and its 50-day moving average. There's no special customization I'm going to need for that, but I will show you where to do that. I'm also going to look for upward momentum defined by the MACD histogram is getting higher. Either if it's negative and the red, this darker red, you can kind of see, by the way, do you see how the red is 2 different colors? There's the brighter red, that means when it's going down, and the darker red means it's going up. They're getting shorter, okay? The brighter green means it's going up, or the darker green means it's positive and going down. So I'm going to be scanning, I want to look for either the brighter green or the darker red here is another way of saying that, okay? So there we go. Let's go on and let's build our scan. Let's continue. I'm picking up where I left off. We threw in liquid stocks there. We threw in liquid stocks to start the scan off. So in case we wanted to do, if we really wanted to limit it down to something else, we can do that. But that's specifically what we're doing. The general principle, though, is when you're creating scans and you click on these, feel free to look here at your personal scans that you've already created before and embed them in this scan. Let me give you an example here. I took a little time at one point and I just created scans for each of the 11 sectors of all the stocks that are in the S&P 500. Why? Because very often I want to look at, say, Staples or something like that. Stocks that are in the S&P 500. Now I can just go over here and go by industry and go to Staples, okay? The problem is there's a ton of stocks in all consumer staples. So that's why I pre-created these. As you create your own little library of personal scans, then what you can do is you can kind of layer them in there one upon another here to help you out. But let's build this scan here, okay? So let's go and let's do kind of an easier one to start, and then we'll go and we'll customize. So I'm going to add a filter. I'm just going to click on Add Filter in the upper right. I'm going to go to Study. Okay, we're talking about a study here. Now, when I click on Study, it comes up with ADX crossover. Always, it's just alphabetical. It's just the first one on the list. Okay, so I click on this, and it kind of sorts these. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Moving Average Scan. It's under Popular Studies, and you may have to look through a couple to remember where that is. I'm I'm going to go to popular studies. I'm going to go to moving average scan. And notice what it says. It says, we're just going to read it, plain English, moving average scan. The close or closing price is at least 10% above the 20-day simple moving average. Okay, let's tweak that a little bit. I don't really care about whether, it doesn't need to be 10% above the 20-day moving average. I just want 1% above that moving average. Okay, so let me put 1 in there, which is 1% above that 20-day move. And here's simple moving average. If I want to change that, I can just click on simple and change it to exponential or Hull or Wilders, whatever you want, okay? But I'm going to leave that simple. I'm going to do another one, okay? I'm going to just repeat the process. How am I going to do that? I'm going to click on Add Filter. I'm going to go to Study Filter. I'm going to click here. I'm going to go back to, what did we say, Popular Studies, Moving Average Scan, and we want the closing price. Now, this one, I'm actually going to, we're only going to go to, I'm going to say 5% above the 50-day moving average, okay? So a little bit more above the 50-day moving average, the longer-term moving average. And if the stock has been trending up longer, I'd expect that to be the case. Now I can scan this and come up with results. However, let's just see what we got. We got 19 results here. But at this point, we're not adding in any momentum indicators. Let's add in a momentum indicator and see what that happens. Remember, I want that MACD histogram to be going higher. So I'm going to add another filter. I'm going to go to study, but we're going to have a problem. We're going to look in studies and we're not going to find it. We'll see there's a MACD histogram crossover. Let's just click on that for a sec here. Note this is positive and negative. All this one is telling us is are those MACD bars red or are they green? Okay, is it switching from, well, if I went from negative to positive, is it going from red to green or positive to negative, green to red? Just it's crossing over that zero line. But that's not what I want here. That doesn't do it. And you can look through the others, and I don't think there's one that gives me the MACD is going up. So we're going to have to customize this one on our own, okay? We're going to have to customize this one on our own. So I'm going to go down to the bottom. Now, I already clicked on Study Filter, and then I'm going to go to Custom right here. And it brings up this. Again, I can go to ThinkScript Editor. If I wanted to, I could add in script. And someone earlier mentioned a particular AI tool, I believe, in there, but you could do that if you wanted to. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do this, use this condition wizard, because this is going to be more accessible to the vast number of people, including myself. Okay, so here's my condition wizard. And what I'm going to do is, let me just, I forgot to clear that one out. Why is that not? One sec here. Let me delete that. Add a condition. Okay, so now I think this should do this. Okay, first thing is it's going to select a condition. Well, when you're creating these customized scans, what I need you to do is just kind of ask yourself, what do you want? Well, I want the MACD histogram to be going up, okay? I want the MACD histogram to be going up. So I'm going to start off with MACD histogram. Is that a value? No, a value. It's not a value. It's not a study or price or function. It's a study. So here's the MACD histogram. So I'm going to scroll down. You can just type it in if you want. MACD histogram. Okay. There's MACD histogram. Okay. Now, what do I want that MACD histogram? It doesn't there's no is going up here, okay? So you start on the left with your study, and then you look here. Well, it's not, there's no is going up. So we got to think about this. What do we want? What is it when we're going up? Okay. Well, when it's going up, it's higher than it was the day before. Higher than, greater than. It's greater than what? The MACD histogram is greater than, well, what the MACD histogram was a day ago. So I'm going to go back to study. I'm going to go to MACD histogram. The MACD histogram is greater than the MACD histogram. Well, that doesn't really make sense. It's greater than the MACD histogram was a day ago. That is why we go to offset. When we offset it, we can make it look back in time. Now, you may think, offset, for back in time, do I need to go negative number? No, back in time is just a positive number. Positive one is yesterday. If I wanted it to be higher than it was 3 days ago, what would I do? Well, I'd do MACD histogram is greater than it was 3. I put a 3 in here. The offset is 3 in there. Okay. So click on save, and you can just kind of read it over. Now, if I were to type this out on script, this is kind of what the script would look like. Okay. And you could copy this if you wanted for your future use or whatever, but I see no need right now. I'm going to click on OK. This one now says custom. Okay. We have edited this. We have edited this. Okay. So now I'm going to click on scan. Okay. We had 19 results, and now we have 12 results. Okay. And you can look, there's some names in here. Oracle, Broadcom, Microsoft. Those are, familiar names to everybody. Let's look at them. Let's ORCL. Okay. What was our scan? Our scan was this, above the 1% at least above the 20-day moving average, at least 5% above our 50-day moving average. And we want our MACD histogram, maybe a little bit harder to see, we want it to be going up. And indeed it is. Okay. What was another one? Well, let me get rid of this. So, good question in the chat. 3 says, is this for swing trading? Not necessarily. This scan could be for swing trading, absolutely. But could you enter a trend trade based on this scan? Absolutely. And for those of you who aren't familiar with those terms, swing trades are like shorter term trades where we try and get in and ride that momentum up. Well, yeah, this scan would be perfect for trying to find, I'm not saying the results will always work out or anything. I'm just saying this is the type of scan you may use to find a stock that's swinging up for that swing trade. But think about it. If you're doing a trend trade, something a little longer term, could you use this as a potential way of finding stocks? This is just a first step, everybody. For finding stocks for a trend trade as well? Absolutely. Probably the bigger difference is you're going to come in as to when you exit the trade on a trend trade versus a swing trade. Then when you enter, this could be either. Now, getting back to this, we said we want stock to be above the 20-day moving average. We want it to be above the 50-day moving average. We want the slope to be going up. We have that on Oracle. What did we see? We said Microsoft, I think, was another one. Microsoft. 20-day moving average, 50-day moving average, and it actually is going up. Now, the MACD has been mostly going sideways here. Notice, you can kind of see on the colors on that MACD. Let me just increase the size of it a little bit here. See, it goes green, red, or red, excuse me, bright red, dark red, bright red, dark red. So it's kind of doing the same thing, but most recently, at least, this is going up. Now, let's say we saw this and we're going, oh, earnings season is coming up. I want to prohibit any stock that's about to have earnings on this. Should we do that? Yeah, we can do that. You you can edit the scan from here if you like, folks. So let's go and let me go back to scan. So let's go. That's going to be, I'm going to go to study again. Okay. I'm going to go to study again. And I'm going to add a filter. We're going to add a study filter. And I can click here and corporate actions. Earnings is a corporate actions, just like a dividend release is a corporate action, or earnings is a corporate action. So I'm going to go to corporate actions. I'm going to say earnings. And then what am I going to do? I'm going to read it. Earnings, it has an earnings announcement anytime in the next 10 days, 10 bars. No, okay, I don't want that. I don't want it to have an earnings announcement, so I'm going to change and make that does not have an earnings announcement anytime in the next 10 bars. Maybe we even say 15 bars. Now, earnings season is upon us, so I imagine the 12 stocks we have may very well be cut down significantly. We've only got 4 of them: Oracle, Broadcom, NVIDIA, Citigroup. Let's look at those last 2 and just see what we got there. NVDA. Is the scan doing what we wanted it to? Yeah, the process of creating these scans is you create it, you see what you don't like about it, and then you tweak it. You add it. We saw we had earnings coming up. We didn't want to deal with that, so we tweaked it. We added that that extra parameter on there. Okay, let me just go and let's save that scan. How about? Okay, let's save that scan. Remember, this is a scan. We've got a scan within a scan. We have liquid stocks is part of that scan, of this scan that we've created. Now, if later I delete that liquid stock scan, later if I delete that liquid stock scan, this scan, I don't even know what would happen to this scan. I don't know if it wouldn't run, if it would give me an error message. I suspect it probably would, but there you go. Okay. Let's go. Let me save this, and I'm going to go to Save Scan Query, and we're just going to name it Bullish No Earnings. Okay, save that. There we go. So now we have that. Now let's do this. I'm going to share these with you, even though hopefully we looked at, this was simple enough that you can create these on your own, and that you feel empowered right now to create these on your own. I'll get to questions in just a sec here, folks, but let me do this. I'm going to share the scan query. Hold on. Let me just load this one up here. I'm going to load, first I'll do the liquid stocks scan. That's this one. I'm going to share the scan query, liquid stocks. Oh, did I save it? Maybe I don't know. Okay, so I'm going to click share. Let me click on this, and I'm going to add that to the chat. And for those, and remember, these scans are not guaranteed for accuracy or timing. For those of you who are watching on a recording, here's the code on this. I'll show you what to do with the code in just a sec. But you can pause this right now if you're watching on a recording, and you can copy those down. If you're watching live, I put them in the scan, in the chat there. Okay, let me go and do the other one here, okay? And we did bullish no earnings on that. So I'm going to load that scan query first of all. We called it bullish no earnings, okay? And I'm going to share the scan query. Bullish no earnings. Okay, I'm going to click on that. We'll do this. We'll repeat the process. Remember, these are not guaranteed for accuracy or timing. That is that second one. And for those of you watching on a recording, here's the second one. Okay, again, you could pause that if you wanted to. on there. Now, what do you do once you have this code if you're newer? What you do is you copy, just copy. You can highlight, right click, copy if you wanted, okay? You can, I don't know, you could probably just right click on it, it's a link. But anyway, you copy it, and then what you do is you go to your Thinkorswim desktop software platform, you go up to the gear in the upper right, clicked on the wrong thing, click on this gear in the upper right, okay? And you click on Open Shared Item. You're then going to paste in that link there. You can click on Preview, and you may, if it doesn't come across as this, you can rename it to whatever you want. You can name it to wherever you want, and then you can import. I'm not going to do that because I already have it, but that's how you can do it for both of those. Now, once you've done that, where do you find them? They should now be in your list of personal scans. Once you've imported those, just go to Load Scan Query. It's in the personal list, and they should also be in your watch list. Okay, let's go. Let me just see. There was a question. Can we easily create a blast order from the scan results? That's a question from Jim. Jim gets credit for a very good question that I do not know how you would easily create a blast order from these scan results here. So the answer is, I don't know of a way, Jim. Cam, unless you have some way on that. Sorry, I hate the answer is, I hate to answer, I don't know how to do it or no, but I think that's my answer here on this. Okay, and I think Cam already answered the questions on your MACD settings. So one other comment I would make here before we wrap up, because we're just about to wrap up. This is from Kelly. Kelly, I mentioned earlier that some people are using AI for coding, and that's a fair point. But Kelly mentioned something, and he said you definitely need to check the results. That's been my experience as well. I've tinkered with it, and sometimes it works beautifully, and sometimes it doesn't work that great, and you need to kind of tweak it a little bit or something like that. So you can try it, but that'd be my take as well. Okay, so what did we do today, folks? We talked about scanning. We talked about layering scans, embedding one scan within another scan, like we did today with liquid stocks within our other scan. We talked about customizing scans and using that condition wizard to create your own scan. And then kind of putting it together, saving the scans, and then we shared the scans with you. Thanks for joining me, everybody. I think Mike's probably back next week. But I want to thank Cam for helping me out in the chat. Do appreciate you guys. And coming up next, we've got, I think, after the close there for our webcast. Appreciate you. Everybody, have a great rest of the day. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.